We'll get started in about 5 minutes, just letting everybody get their clients updated and logged in. And we'll get started. We'll give everybody just a couple more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. We are live streaming this to our YouTube channel, so you won't be able to record this to your cloud, but if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find this recording and share it with anybody that's interested in seeing it. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Community Emergency Response Team Central Bureau Coordinator. And tonight is the third Wednesday of the month. This is our third Wednesday Community Emergency Response Team Continuing Education Training. We do this every month. Most months, we'll be taking it off in December, but every month we do these trainings to give community emergency response team trained volunteers as well as any other group that's really interested or people who are just interested in learning about disaster preparedness. Um, Kind of summary, basic, intermediate, and advanced trainings that allow you to grow as well as revisit some of the topics that you might have learned in the training or seen before. We like to put different spins on it to approach things from different ways so that everybody learns differently. And this gives you an opportunity to see it from a different advantage point and maybe pick something up that you might have missed in the class. Tonight's topic is going to be one of the more advanced topics, but also one of the more basic topics. This is on the incident command system, um, but particularly for how it works for CERT, not for in general if you work with fire or emergency management. This is very specific to how CERT would utilize it in the field during a disaster. We're also going to talk about some of the forms that we would use and how they relate to how the incident command system is set up for a community emergency response team. What I want to emphasize is that this is not a certification class. This is not to replace one of the classes that is offered by FEMA or by other agencies that teach you what they want you to know and in the way they want you to learn it. Really, this is designed to help you get a understanding of the basics, um, and how it relates to how you would utilize it in your own neighborhood or community during a disaster. Um, this is not to say that this is going to teach you in a different way or teach you something new or different than you would learn in the certification classes. What I really want to push is how we're different in how we operate than the fire service is, or what you would see at a multi-agency response. It's still critical that you learn and take those other trainings, but I think that ICS is very difficult to teach in that it is very complicated and it really it can be everything, it can be nothing, it can be somewhere in the middle. And so the way I want to approach it for tonight's training is how it really starts at the bottom and grows as needed versus seeing what it looks like big picture, but not how to get started at it. We're going to show you some of the CERT org charts, examples of what they look like, but I want to emphasize that it is not a it needs to look like this. It is an example of how it could look once it gets built out. We really want to emphasize function over form. A lot of times I think people misunderstand incident command system in that they think it's an org chart that needs to be built out. And it needs to look like this because this is the way we learned it. And this is the way it was taught. What I really want to emphasize is that this is really building it to the needs of the incident and to the people responding to it, namely community emergency response team members. And if you get to an incident, CERT run or command post staging area, whatever, what you should expect when you get there. Now, FEMA, I took this straight from FEMA. FEMA defines the incident command system as a standardized approach to incident management that is used for all kinds of incidents by all types of organizations and at all levels of government. Incident command system is applicable to small incidents as well as large and complex ones. It can be used not only for emergencies, but also for planned events. It enables a coordinated response amongst various jurisdictions and agencies, establishes common processes for incident level planning and resource management, and allows the integration of resources such as facilities, equipment, personnel within a common organization structure. The emphasis here is really on standardization. The reason for this is that early on, when mutual aid became a thing and we had fires here in California, firefighters from Arizona came to help out, and they operated very differently than the firefighters from California. And so um, it was very uncoordinated at the very beginning. And we realized that we need to have a standard system that everybody operates under so that when you show up, you know the same language, you know the same structure and who to report to that everyone else does. Otherwise, it is just chaos adding to chaos. So why do we learn incident command system? We're volunteers, we're not professionals, we don't get paid to do this. But it's really important to realize that incident command ICS is built on lessons learned. It grows as every incident occurs, and when something doesn't go right, the after action report tracks what went wrong, how did it go wrong, and how can we prevent this from happening again? And so it's very important to keep learning because there will always be something new. Things will never go perfectly, and there will always be lessons learned. And it is very critical to keep learning those lessons and keep updating your skills and keep um, learning from the mistakes of others so that you don't have to learn them the hard way yourself. ICS is really a good way to organize volunteer events as well as, of course, the response to incidents. Um, Additionally, it is the system that the professionals will operate under. And so if we're volunteering with them, we're joining them, we get rolled up into them, it's important that we operate under the same system and understand how their system works. Because we might be volunteering with the fire department at a fair and providing some sort of service, logistics, or just supporting them doing stuff, we need to operate under the same system that they are. And then, of course, what CERT was really designed for is to be that first response during a disaster before the professionals get there. And of course, these are unplanned incidents. So you need to learn how to operate under the same system because when the professionals show up and you are expecting them to get there, um, unfortunately, probably not as soon as you would like them to get there, but they're going to expect something out of us. And then if we are doing a good job and get rolled up into them, we need to be able to operate under the same system that they're operating under. If you take anything out of this training tonight, it's ICS really tells you who you report to and who reports to you. Fundamentally. There's other things to learn of course, but as long as you really base that where are we on the org chart, you're starting to get a little bit of what we're trying to teach you. If you do end up responding to an emergency and your CERT team gets rolled up into the professional response, CERT will probably end up under the operations or logistics side of things. But it's really going to depend on your locality. Um, if you're in a more rural area, CERT may do a lot more than CERT will do in a more urban area where we have a lot of professional responders. It is very important to really um, take a look at the basic training, and fortunately, we're doing this now and not last week, because with the government shutdown, um, the training system that FEMA provides was actually offline. So you couldn't get your ICS 100, 200 certifications. Now, if you go to training.fema.gov/IS for independent study, we recommend that you take the basic classes 1, 2, 7, and 8, 100, 200, 700, 800. ICS 100 is the introduction to the incident command system. ICS 200 is the ICS for single resources and initial action incidents. ICS 300 is an introduction to the National Incident Management System. And ICS 800 is an introduction to the National Response Framework. And it really starts to give you an idea of how all of this works together. There's a lot. There is a whole lot, and we don't expect you to learn everything, nor do we expect you to be able to master any of it or all of it. But an introduction into how these things work is really going to be critical to moving forward, not only for your benefit, but if you really want to make your local team be able to operate during a disaster. Those four classes are online. They can be taught in person as well. However, it might be hard to find someone who's teaching it in person. The two classes that I recommend that are in person only are ICS 300 and 400. And this really shows you where things go from the very beginning to the very end. Um, as CERT members, we see the incident, the one incident that we're at. And ICS 200, 700, 100, 200, 700, 800 are really about that single incident. During a disaster, a regional disaster, a wide-scale disaster, it's not the one incident. It's a lot of incidents, a lot with different resources coming in, different agencies. You're running under a unified command instead of a single incident commander. And knowing how that single incident grows into multiple incidents and multiple agencies and a wide scale response is really where 300 comes into play. And if you get a chance to take ICS 300, I strongly recommend it. I consider it an eye opener for CERT members. For those of you who don't know what the Community Emergency Response Team is, I like to break it down as kind of the foundation training on how to be prepared for a disaster, how to take care of your loved ones, and then how to safely help your neighbors out during an emergency or disaster before the professional responders arrive. And if you do a good job, you're taking care of your neighbors, those professional responders might even say, "You got this. We're going to go deal with something bigger, something more that is not being taken care of." And that's really a compliment to your response, not a trying to pass on the responsibility. But also think of the CERT training as an introductory training on how to manage people. I think that that isn't really talked about much. And it's also an introduction on how to think in a flexible way. A lot of times we're very rigid in how we think about things, how we learn things, how we respond to things. But during a disaster, there is usually not just one way to do something. And oftentimes the one way to do something is not going to work. And so you have to think and be flexible, and learn how to shift and pivot as you need to deal with the unexpected. And that makes you more versatile. Um, there's a lot of different roles CERT members can play and be delegated. A lot of times we train and we think, oh, I want to be the radio operator. I want to be the scribe. I want to be the team leader. But that's not being versatile if you only know how to do one role. What you should do is when you get to a drill or a disaster, you need to ask, what do you need me to do? And fill in that role because they might not need another radio operator, but they might need someone who's going to be able to, bandage someone up or assess someone who's been injured and figure out, what's next steps for them. And additionally, and this is maybe even more critically, it's realizing that the basics is not enough. The foundation, the introductions are not enough. You need to learn more and keep learning, keep practicing. Take every opportunity you get to take additional training because the more you learn, the more different viewpoints you have at approaching something, the more you're able to think outside the box and solve problems that need creative solutions. And you need to be versatile to respond to. If you live in the LA area, LA County, LA City, we offer free training to firefighters, teach these classes in LA City. Classes start every odd month. So the next classes will be starting in, if they haven't already started in November, um, because the holidays, things get a little wonky. Probably January will be when the next round of classes start. If you're in LA County, you can sign up with LA County, see what classes they have available as well. So when you look up ICS or Incident Command System, a lot of times you're going to get this image. And this image is not what Incident Command System is. It's an example of what it can look like, but I don't want you thinking that your organization chart needs to look like this. Obviously, CERT does not have air operations. We don't have helicopters. We don't have planes. Or you might actually say you're with the Civil Air Patrol. And you might have a plane that is needed for search and rescue in your rural area. So it's really about how do I slot in and where am I needed? This is more commonly for CERT specifically an example organization chart. And this is actually a fillable PDF, which is great because you can just type in the roles and put it up there. But I also want to emphasize that this is not what your chart is going to look like. This is an example of what it can look like. Um, but again, I think a lot of times we see these so often, we think every box needs to be filled. I need to have all these roles filled. I need to use these and only these. And that is the wrong way to approach incident command system. What do we need to know as CERT members versus, say, if you're a firefighter, a captain on an engine or a truck company? It's very different. But it's the same as well. Fundamentally, what we need to know about incident command system at the CERT level is the same thing that you need to know at the professional level. Um, but it's important not to overthink it. Incident command system, fundamentally, the most important thing is that it is standardized but flexible. It is designed to expand and contract as the incident grows and shrinks. It is not just a bunch of boxes that need to be filled. It's more than just the organization chart. What it is, that organization chart is really designed to show who is at the incident and who's been assigned roles, but it's not the focus of incident command. That organization chart is great at showing who reports to whom, but don't think of it as starting here with the chart already built out. You really want to think about that it starts with one box. And as roles are delegated, then the boxes are added. And as the incident grows, the organization chart will grow. But just as importantly, as the incident shrinks, that organization chart will shrink as well. Fundamentally, incident command system is what you need it to be, not you trying to shoehorn it into this or this. So keep it simple and don't overthink it. There are three key concepts that I want you to remember, and this is really, really important for how ICS operates. Chain of command, you can think of it as the organization chart, is the order of who reports to whom and who can give direction to someone. Unity of command is similar, certainly it shares the same word, but who can tell me what to do is what it boils down to. Everyone reports to and takes direction from one and only one person. The incident commander is in charge of the overall incident and gives direction. But if you are not directly underneath the incident commander, you shouldn't be taking direction and being told what to do by the incident commander. If you report to, I think it's in the next one. If you report to the search and rescue leader, who reports to the operations section chief, who reports to the incident commander, you should not be taking direction from the incident commander. The incident commander should be telling the operations section chief that they need something done, and that operations section chief is going to look at their resources, figure out which of their teams is going to do it, and then filter down the direction. Just because if the incident commander is telling all the resources and individual people what to do, it gets out of control very fast. And that leads us to the next thing, which is span of control, or more importantly, or easily defined as when to delegate. One person can lead and manage 3 to 7 people or resources before things start to break down. If you have 8, 9, 10, 20 people reporting to you, it is very difficult to keep track of all of that and manage that. 3 to 7, 5 is optimal. When you start getting higher in the number of people reporting to you, that's when it's time to delegate. So I said it starts with one box, and that is the first person on scene or the incident commander. When the second person shows up, that second person reports to the first person. When a third person shows up, they might also report to the first person, or the fourth person. Typically, because the first person is the incident commander, as people show up, they all report to that first person. They all report to the incident commander. So it's not like the second person reports to the first person and the third person reports to the second person. But as people show up and you get more people, more resources, and now you're starting to have trouble with your span of control, that's when you delegate. And maybe if you're not the most experienced person there, you get there, you just graduated from our CERT class, and you're in charge. You're going to quickly be looking to delegate your responsibilities to someone else. Now, fourth person shows up and they happen to have been doing this for 10 years. The first thing you're going to do is find out this out and you go, oh, you're in charge. Tell me what to do. And I will fall in line and do what needs to be done. But if you are the most experienced person there, you're going to retain control. It's up to you to delegate as needed. Either that means delegating one role or delegating all the roles. When it builds out, you can see how it doesn't really matter when people show up as to when or who they report to. It really depends on the role that they need to fill and span of control. So that will end up probably looking like this, where you have an incident commander, and that might be the first person there, or it might be the fourth person there. It's going to be the person who's most capable of handling that role. And if you need to delegate, a lot of times what will happen is when professional firefighters respond, the engine might be the first resource on scene, and they're putting water on this house, but they need more resources. They need a truck company. They need EMS coming. And so the captain one on the engine, um, when the captain two on the truck shows up, the captain two may take over as incident commander, or a battalion chief shows up and they take over as incident commander. Then, as the incident grows, that first person, that captain one on scene, might become the operations section chief and take multiple units under their command. But it really depends on how this incident grows and what's needed. And this is where things get complicated. If you look at this, it's a lot. And for us as CERT level, we're probably not going to have a planning section chief. We're probably not going to have a logistics section chief. Maybe we'll have an operations section chief. But if you're trying to fit everything in and shoehorn it into this giant organization chart, it's just too much. And that's what I really want to emphasize is don't overthink it. Don't think I need an operations section chief. I need a planning section. I need logistics. I need finance and admin. I need branches. I need divisions. I need groups. It really is, what do I have in terms of people? And what do I have in terms of needs? Also, don't focus on the titles. Yeah, operations section chief is defined in ICS, group section leader or medical TARP leader. These are all titles that exist for standardization purposes. But what is the role? What is the job that needs to be done? The title that goes along with that is irrelevant. When you start building out a giant org chart and you have 100 resources on scene, the titles maybe become a little bit more important, but fundamentally, it's still about the role, still about the job. What do I have and what do I need to do with them? I need to assign people, or I need to assign people to a role or a job, or I need to delegate. If my span of control is getting out of control, I have 8 people reporting to me. I need to delegate my authority. I need to say, okay, I need Stacy, I need you to take some of this responsibility. I need you to organize 3 of these other people, and I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to talk to them. It doesn't really matter about the titles. It doesn't really matter about the roles. It's about having a manageable span of control. And I can reassign people as needed. Hey, Stacy, you have 5 people reporting to you. I need a couple of them to go over to Alan, and Alan is going to take these people, and I need him to manage something else. Yeah, you can draw it out in the org chart, but fundamentally it comes to how many people do I have and where do I need them? And who am I talking to so we can manage all of these people? Roles can either be a leadership function or, sorry, a leadership position or a function. And roles should be filled by the best person or the person best capable of performing the role. It's important to evaluate your people. You might not have a lot of options at the very beginning. If you have three people at an instant, you have three people at an instant, and you're going to do what you can, even if these people have just graduated a CERT class and they don't know what they're doing. But if you have 15 people at the instant now, and you have some more experienced people coming in, maybe having the person who is a little bit shell-shocked and timid and can't really is not showing that they're a good leader right now, maybe they shouldn't be in a leadership position and maybe they need to be shifted into more of a functional role. But if you're not evaluating, you're not monitoring your people, you won't even notice that. And incidents, people, resources don't fail necessarily because they're not competent. They fail because of bad management. And so, again, this is all about managing. This is all about putting people where you need them to be and then making sure that they are in a good position and in the correct position to manage the people underneath them and do the job that needs to be done. In the end, your organization chart, your org chart might look very similar to someone else's, or it might look very different. It really depends. You, again, I'm going to say it again, should not be shoehorning your organization, your people into someone else's chart because that's what you've seen. You are going to build your chart the way you need it to be built with the resources you have and the roles that you need to delegate. A lot of times, CERT teams will pre-designate roles. I'm this is my team. I'm the incident commander. I have Samantha as my operations, and I have Richard as my planning section chiefs. What happens if Samantha's not there? Samantha's on vacation. Do you have a backup um, operations section chief? What if I'm not there? What if I'm out of town when the earthquake happens? Who's going to fill in as incident commander? The professionals cross-train. Deployed to the LA City Emergency Operations Center. The operations staff there rotated every day their positions because this was during COVID, because it gave them a chance to cross-train. It gave them a chance to get familiar with the position that they learned, but not necessarily been in before. And versatility, flexibility is critical here because everybody should be able to do every job. Maybe not the best person for it, but when you show up and you're told, oh, we already have three radio operators, we need someone to do medical. And your response is, well, I've never even learned how to bandage someone. I only know how to talk on the radio. You're not exactly the most useful person at that exact moment. Um, so cross-train, practice. When you go to a drill, ask to do something you're uncomfortable doing, ask to do something that you don't have a lot of experience doing, ask to do something new. That's how you're going to get better at it. Because when you show up, there's going to be roles that need to be filled, and there's not going to be enough people to fill them. And you need to be able to slot into whatever role that needs to be filled at that time. Now, ideally, in a perfect role at least, a person is going to have one role or one job and only one job. That way they can focus on that one role or one job. However, Reality is we're not going to have enough resources. We're not going to have enough people. And so people are more often than not going to have multiple roles. Think about it. The incident commander has all roles, all the jobs until they delegate. And that's either delegate portion of their responsibility or delegate all of it. They might, they of course will be, if the first person there will be the incident commander. And until they delegate the role of incident commander to someone else, they're going to be the incident commander. But they don't necessarily need to be the operations section chief. Or maybe they do need to be the operations section chief, and we have a planning section chief that needs to be filled, or a scribe, or a radio operator, or logistics. Really depends on the needs of the incident. But remember, it starts from one person and builds from there. And if you are using a, a chart that's pre-designed, a blank box doesn't mean that um, no one is doing that job. It just means that the role hasn't been delegated yet. Somebody still needs to do that job. And typically it's going to be the incident commander until they delegate it to someone else. So going back to the standard CERT organization chart, we can see incident commander, information officer, liaison, safety, scribe, operations section chief, planning section chief, logistics section chief, staging manager, care center manager, animal leader, all the different food, supplies, medical, situation monitoring maps. Anybody here ha their team has all these roles filled? I'd like to talk to you if you do. Um, Chances are this is just a example of what your org chart may need to fill as you fill them. And I want to reemphasize all the boxes here are blank. Doesn't mean someone's not doing the job, just means it hasn't been delegated yet. So start with the first person on scene. That's the incident commander. And then maybe the second person team is your first team leader, or maybe they're your scribe. What's important to you? What is your priority? Is your priority getting a team in the field, or is your priority making sure that you're not overwhelmed at the very beginning? Your team has three people. That's you, a scribe, and a radio operator. You have three people. Maybe you are the only team and you're going out and searching for problems and trying to fix them. Or maybe you have four people and you have a scribe and a radio operator, and now you have a team leader out there who has no team. Um, that's a bit of a problem. So maybe you give that team leader, scribe, and radio operator, and you were the only person at staging or at the incident command, and you've got a radio and you've got a pad of paper, and you send your team out and have them start looking for problems and reporting back. And then a couple more people show up and they are your scribe and radio operator until you get another team in the field. Every team is going to be different. Every team is going to have different a number of people, resources, training levels. So it's really going to depend on who shows up. And you can't expect everyone to show up. If this earthquake happens in the middle of the day and people are at work, or it happens at night and everybody's at home, two completely different stories. If you don't have a big team, it's you and two other people, that's it. You're helping as best you can. But you don't need to fill out an org chart if that's your team. Don't overthink it. Don't think I need to start building and making this full when there's only three of us. So, two teams in the field. Each team is comprised of a team leader, a radio operator, and a scribe, and you also have a scribe and radio operator at staging with you. Um, how you put them on the chart, again, I would say you really don't need a chart for this yet. This is not big enough. You don't have enough people that it's confusing as to where you need to put everybody. The org chart is there to help, but it's not the focus. Don't think I need to build this out as my priority. My priority is getting teams in the field, getting people to report in and tell me what's going on so we can figure out how to help our neighbors. But as the teams grow, now you need to start tracking, okay, where are my people? Who should be reporting to me? If I have three teams in the field, I have two damage assessment teams, each with a team leader, radio operator, and scribe, and one incident response team, um, who has an incident team leader, scribe, and radio operator, but also two responder pairs. Who's reporting to me? Well, I'm not talking to their responders. I'm talking to the team leader, or I'm talking to the radio operator who's calling in, or my radio operator is talking to their radio operator. Now you can start to see where your span of control starts to get a little problematic. Got five teams in the field, three damage assessment teams, and two incident response teams. Well, now maybe I need to break it up. Maybe I need to delegate. The search team needs to go to a search team. Actually, this should be search group leader. And the search teams in the field are reporting to the search group leader. But I want to retain control of my incident response teams because as incidents get reported in, I need to talk to my teams and say I need direct control over them because I don't need to delegate them yet. My priority is those response teams. I need to control where they are. I'll let my search group leader take incidents in and tell me what else needs to be worked upon. So that's the delegation portion of it here. But as it grows, now I've got three damage assessment teams, three incident response teams in the field. Now I need to delegate, or I feel the need to delegate. And I'm going to have a search group, I have a search group leader and a response group leader directly controlling those teams. And I'm going to talk to my search group leader. I'm going to talk to my response group leaders because they're going to know where their resources are. I don't need to control six teams by myself directly. And as I get more people, we've got 30 people now in this team, and they're broken up into their own teams. Now I got to start delegating. I need an operations section chief, a logistics person who is getting stuff for us, finding resources, where are our caches, where is our equipment located, what do we need to augment and support our teams in the field. And you can see here the medical treatment area. I've got equipment coming in. I've got medical supplies, and each of those takes a person to manage because it's so much. Well, you can kind of see where this chart starts to look a lot like what I have. But you saw how we built from one square, then two, three, four, five, until I have so many people here that it kind of is important to know who am I talking to, who's reporting to who, and what does it look like. You'd be very lucky at the CERT level if you have this. If you work at a professional level, this is what they deal with as things get big. For us as CERT volunteers, really think about and prioritize what can I do with the resources I have. If I have five people sitting around at staging or at the incident command post doing nothing with nobody in the field, Am I making good use of those resources? Or do I prioritize and I'm the only one sitting here at staging and I'm talking to one or two teams that are in the field and they're getting things done? But how many people do I have? What are my people capable of doing? If you have a team, you really need to start talking about taking training, doing drills. Get your people better at what they're doing. The basic class is not enough. It's a great start, it's a great foundation, but practicing what they learn, bringing in people who can teach newer topics, start expanding upon what they know and are capable of doing, first aid, radio training, search and rescue techniques, practicing these techniques. These are how you get your people better. And as a team leader, that is your priority, is making sure your people are ready to go and practice so that when the earthquake happens or when the fire happens or whatever, the windstorm, rainstorm, whatever disaster you have in your area, your people are capable and you have people that you can rely upon. Now you can start prioritizing what do I need my people to do? And do I need to prioritize getting people in the field first? Or do I need to prioritize adding people at the incident command post or the staging area that I can then delegate to so that I'm not overwhelmed and the staging area isn't overwhelmed from multiple teams in the field calling in simultaneously and I have to track all this. And that's where the forms come in. These forms, the CERT forms are based upon what the professionals use, the standardized forms, but they've been tailored to us. They've been genericized enough as well so that they really need to be augmented by each team. They need to be taken and modified that it works for you. You can take the basics, you can make changes to them. Or you can look at it and go, this is garbage. I'm going to find a better form. If you want to, and you want to reinvent the wheel, that's up to you. But these are the basics that come from FEMA, or rather the contractor who wrote the latest curriculum. Um, and you should be familiar with all these different forms, and if you need to make changes to them to make them work for you, feel free to do so. Worst case scenario, you have a blank sheet of paper. It's whatever form you need it to be. Whatever role this blank sheet of paper needs to be, it can do everything. Form zero. If you have no forms at all, buy a ream of paper and give people blank sheets of paper, and they will put on there what they need to put on there. If you can print out the damage assessment forms or the rapid needs assessment form, again, this is the basic form that CERT gives you. Um, I don't find it as useful as something like this. At staging, I want to know what my incidents are at a quick glance. Where are they? What hazards are there? What do I need to know so I can prioritize where I need to send people? The generic CERT current Form 2 personnel resources asks people what they want to do. Let's go back a few slides and say, I don't care what you want to do. I don't care if you are a great radio operator. I have three other radio operators. I need someone who can put bandages on people because I have people with injuries all over the place. That's what I need. I need to know how good at you at doing medical, at doing radio, at doing scribe. I'm going to put you where I need you to be. And when I sign in here, I'm going to tell you what I'm good at so you can put me where you need me to be. Assessment logs, or assessment tracking log. This is the team in the field. And I've taken the existing form and modified it a little bit to add spots in here so that I can see, okay, I have a team leader and up to 6 other people on the team because I don't want to overwhelm the team with too many people, but I also want to be able to quickly write down the names of the people on that team and what they're doing. Are there a damage assessment team? Are they an incident response team? Um, these teams are going to move around, but what's the team name? And don't overcomplicate it. For us, we're using the NATO alphabet, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. But we standardized also on damage assessment teams are always Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Incident response teams are always going to be Echo, Foxtrot, Golf Hotel. Because if Delta calls in, I don't need to think about, is that a damage assessment team or is that an incident response team? If Charlie calls in, are they damage assessment or incident response? If I'm mixing and matching, that's more thought I need to put in trying to coordinate what I have. If Delta calls in, it's a damage assessment team. If Echo calls in, it's an incident response team. I already know this, but do what works for you and your team and come up with the standardized practices that you can train on and make sure that you're doing it time and time again so that everyone gets this muscle memory, so everyone understands the process. This is what the professionals do. They don't make it up as they go. Not anymore. They used to, and they learn better. And CERT is based upon the same training that they've gotten, but we should be following the same protocols and standardization processes that they do. But we love to make it up as we go. We like to reinvent the wheel. Every team in LA City is going to do something different because we love reinventing the wheel. I don't know. Don't get me started on it. And moving on. This is the customization of the briefing assignment form. I like this because you can have your damage assessment on the front and your incident response on the back. Why do I need two different forms? Do I need a form one, which is the damage assessment form, and basically the front of the briefing assignment? Why not just have one form? You can see some of our customized forms as well as I believe the actual standard forms are on here as well. Forms.certvolunteer.org. Um, for those of you, again, who want to take the community emergency response team and live in the LA area, cert-la.com/eventbrite for LA City classes, lacountyfire.galaxydigital.com/event for the LA County Fire classes. If you haven't taken the training, it's not going to be a waste of time for you, unless you're coming in as an expert. But then, as an expert, you should want to know what is being taught at the CERT level as well. And again, this was an introduction to how we can even conceptualize incident command. The actual training that FEMA puts out, this is the standard. Training.fema.gov/IS. These classes are free. 100, 200, 700, 800. 300 and 400 are in person. There might be some costs associated with it, but at the very least, everybody should be taking 100, 200, 700, 800. And like I said, this training is up on our YouTube channel as well as our other trainings. YouTube.com/C/LAFD CERT coordinators, or just search for LAFD CERT coordinators in YouTube and you'll find our trainings. It was a lot. Any questions, comments, critiques, editorials, confusion, panic? Does the word form scare you and make you shake? Um, it's a lot, and it really is. But if I can give you two pieces of advice, don't overthink it and just, do what makes sense to you. Start where you stand. Start with square one and then delegate as you need to.
And
Feel free to the
Patrick, can I jump?
forum. Yeah, Chin, go ahead.
Oh no, go on and finish, and then I'll kick in a couple of comments here and there.
Okay. Um, Forms.certvolunteer.org. Just put it in the chat. That's where you can download those forms. Go ahead, Jin.
No, well, one, I wanted to say, between you and me, this is one of your shortest presentations. I expected this one to go on for a minute, but
Just
good
57
presentation. But
slides.
it's 7 slides.
57.
That's like bro, that's an all-time low for you. I'm just saying. So, but to everybody, a good evening, and I'm the other co-host guy around here, Chin Thomasangsi, LAFD South LAFD CERT South Bureau Coordinator. Good to see everybody tonight. Stacy way down there in Florida. I always got to acknowledge you. You're always amazing out there. But great presentation. And what I'll say right off the top is that this is probably some of the most driest material you can ever sit through, but it probably is the most important thing you'll ever learn in this CERT and just general response thing we do. One thing I want to add to the discussion is that one of the things we don't always realize is that this ICS thing, Incident Command Systems, just like CERT, there is a connection to Los Angeles. The man who created the CERT program, Frank Borden, and Patrick, you can correct me. It's like I believe that they give a lot of credit to Frank Borden for creating the national ICS system. I know he's a part of it, but he's definitely a part of it. A number of things came out of Los Angeles, including CERT, definitely elements of ICS. And then search and rescue operations were a big thing here in Los Angeles and went national. So, Patrick, do I have that right? That Frank was probably, if not the father of it, a big part of the ICS creation?
I'm not sure. Obviously, California is a large state.
Mhm.
But I mentioned one of the classes is the national NIMS, National Incident Management System, and that's actually
Mhm.
based upon SIMS, State Incident Management System that we developed here in California.
Mhm.
I'm sure LA City, LA County had impact in it just because of how big we are. But it takes a village, takes a lot of people, and a lot of lessons learned. And while we have the majority people population down here in Southern California, actually Northern California gets a lot more disasters than we do. The bulk of the fires, the wildfires, are in the north. Flooding, harsh storms, blizzards, they get all that stuff in the north. We get some really bad ones down here, but they're fighting it year round up there.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah.
Alan Nichols from CERT Volunteers in Your Neighborhoods. You're correct. We had the 2020 SU lightning complex fires in 4 counties. 1989, we had the Loma Prieta earthquake. 1991, we had the Logan firestorm. It just seems like there's an X on us, but we're ready up here.
Yeah.
We like the work.
Keep
Thank
your
you.
And
disasters up there. We'll stay
Yeah.
here with the good weather in Southern
Well,
California.
that that the CERT Volunteers in Your Neighborhood, a worldwide network. We're in 40 different countries, and we get different people in different countries. Everybody wants to be a volunteer. They just don't know how to organize. And
Hmm.
in being a former first responder, we got it covered, but you delegate. I love how you delegate because there's no way we have our teams broken into five. Everything's in a five. They're easier to handle. So
Hmm.
your idea of having a ream paper, I carry ream paper in my metal clipboards because we have them all over the table and we write down into the commander. And when we had our CERT orientation in 2019, um, we started with blank paper. We didn't have a map. And we actually drew visuals of the training grounds at Livermore Pleasanton Training Center, which is a state ALA training center through Cal Fire. It goes through.
uh-oh, did we have Alan freeze up over there?
Yeah. Sounds like it.
So I appreciate
There he
what
is.
you did. I'm going to click your link and I'll put it out. So thanks again. And Chin, thank you. I follow, I don't know, what do you have, 32 different groups down there? and I enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, you hit send, and I get I don't know as many 15 different CERT units. It's great because we're all on the same page. So thanks again. I'll sign off and let the professionals um, here handle it. Have a good day.
You have a
Thank
good
you,
one,
Alan.
Alan. And Ivan in the chat, I will say, he did confirm something that I knew, and you know so much stuff that you can't remember half of it. He put into the chat that Frank Borden was also an instrumental leader in the development and implementation of the incident command system and the National Urban Search and Rescue programs. Both of these programs revolutionized the disaster response system and built a better future for emergency management. And that history can be found on our LAFD or on our LAFD CERT website. So thank you, Ivan, for confirming something that I knew in my head but just couldn't remember. Got too much in the noggin. So one other thing I'd like to say as part of comments on what I've seen, what I saw here in this particular presentation, was Patrick said something very, 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 very key that a lot of our members don't understand. When you show up for duty at a staging area, you have to be prepared to do anything and everything that you're asked to do, not necessarily what you want to do. So it does require that you folks, be cross-trained. We can't say it enough. It's like we know you guys have interests and areas you gravitate to. For me, I always see people gravitating to the area of medical, like 5 million medical people who want to show up and play Dr. Kildare. But when you come up to that staging area, I may not need you as Dr. Kildare at that moment. I may need you doing the scribe positions. And it's very funny because a lot of people have this idea. It's like, oh, I just have to write stuff down. You're probably one of the most important people in there because you are keeping a record of what happened during this incident that will be passed on in many cases to our professional responders once they arrive on scene. It also gives you an idea of what's happening, of accountability and things like that. Just talking about one position. But wherever we need you, we need you. And I will tell you, as a member and probably a manager of the LAFD CERT call out team, I have probably done everything there is and I'll tell you where I started or where I sometimes end up. I arrive on scene at the IC and they hand me a trash bag and they say, go patrol Main Street. That is code for go pick up trash. I've done that. I've done everything, everything else, up the ladder. But you have to be prepared to do whatever you're asked to do and to a certain degree, not take it personally. So really, 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 really understand that. And again, like I said, be cross trained. Patrick and we all make this point that any one of us who are here tonight, the ones you look at to kind of lead this thing, the action might take place when we're out of town. Patrick travels for fun and for business. I do the same, whatever it is. And then that big, 8.7 happens. And guess what? Patrick and I are like watching from far away. We'd love to be with you, but we're not there. But what has to happen is that when you arrive at that incident command area, you need to be kind of ready to take on whatever role, whether it's incident commander, team leaders, whatever it is. And you also need to know the plan in your neighborhood. You need to know that plan. But here's a little secret. And I watch at our exercises a lot of our CERT members kind of struggle. Guess what? As people come in, and even you as the incident commander, if you find somebody there who you feel may have a little more skill or say they have a little more skill and they seem to have it, you can switch those positions. Patrick spoke about that sometimes people in one position will shift to others or whatever it is. You have options. You just have to know you've got those options, and you just have to have the cross training. And finally, my comments. I love CERT Form Zero. I am a big proponent of CERT Form Zero. And Patrick, you can always come up behind me because I know you have sometimes you and I we don't necessarily agree on things, not in a mean kind of way. We just do things differently. When it comes to forms in the field, I remember something a previous captain of ours said, Captain Christopher Wynn, who was probably one of our great captains who really got our team to where it is today. Um, he would tell you at the time, he says, I know you're big on the forms and trying to mark everything in the box and checking everything off. He said, but the first priority is to make sure you find out what's going on in your neighborhood and start those rescue operations if you can. Start those fire suppression operations if you can. He says, get back to the forms. He said, get back to them at some point. He says, but don't get caught up in it if the situation is dire. I also go one better because I see a lot of our people in the field when they're working. They're just ready to rip their hair out because they've written something in those tiny little boxes that they just, you know how it goes. If you have to, use CERT Form Zero, record your information, and then maybe when you get a break or when you get demobilized, transfer your information over to the formal forms if you can. If you can. So those are just some thoughts from my end of the world, Patrick. I just wanted to kick that in there. And as always, let's have that dialogue.
Yeah. One thing I want to also key off of, Chin, you said, know what the neighborhood plan is. Most of us don't have neighborhood plans. Most of us don't have teams. So I mentioned that CERT is an introductory to leadership and managing other people. And unfortunately, for most of us, that means that we have to be the ones to step up. We have to start it because no one else is going to. If there is no neighborhood team, there is no neighborhood plan, then we need to create it. We need to say, all right, I've taken the basic training, I've practiced, I've watched this stuff. I clearly have a vested interest in my own community here. So what's next? How do I get things going? Chin and I can help you, but we can't do it for you. So
Mhm.
you need to come to us or to your coordinator or, your fire department, whatever, and say, hey, I want to get started building my CERT team. Can you help?
Mhm.
But don't go to them and say, or come to us and say, I don't have a CERT team. You need to build it for me because we won't be able to.
Hey, Patrick.
Patrick, oh,
Yeah.
Alan,
Yeah.
you want to go ahead of me and I'll go behind you.
Well, Patrick's got a good topic. Knowing your neighborhood, it's called windshield surveys.
Mhm.
And when the fire department's out of the fire departments, we have 10 of them live in More Pleasanton, CERT takes it over as a minor injury treatment pre-transport facility. And we have plot maps. Each of the districts in Livermore Pleasant, there are 10 fire stations, they have these huge plot maps. We just shove a table up against it. Right behind it is the network room. And we deal with emergency services, and all we do is say CERT team leader, station 9. We're receiving local patients, but windshield surveys are very important. I don't see that stressed enough in any of the CERT discussion boards, national CERT. But one thing in the Twin Towers, now we had uh, alerts here in California, but we lost a lot of firefighters, a lot of policemen. We lost everybody, but they don't talk about the floor wardens that were lost in that town.
Mm.
Now, multi-structure facilities are required to have floor wardens. What that is that you divide your building, your floor, into certain areas, and you're responsible for going to each area and say, get off the phone, go to the stairway, do not go to the elevator, and walk in the elevator. They lost hundreds of floor wardens in there, but floor wardens were carrying people in their wheelchairs down the stairs as the fire department was going up. So floor warden training is something that's not addressed enough, nor windshield surveys. Windshield survey basically is your GMRS radio, your ham radio, and you call into the fire station, and your CERT incident command just takes a flow pen marker, and they write SAR 1's here, SAR 2 is here, medical's here. So basically, you're running the show, and the fire department never comes back except for gas. So
Yeah, we've talked about damage assessment teams in the past, and I mentioned like the Alpha team going out with just a skeleton crew, and that's the team leader, radio operator, and scribe, and you walk the neighborhood, and you preferably have a route that you take, just like the fire department does for the windshield survey, so you know where your team should be at any time along that route, and they're calling in instance. The goal of that team is to find problems that need resources to help with. Either need more people or medical, but they're able to do basic triage. They're able to stabilize an injury if as long as they don't get stuck there. But yeah, exactly that. And every community needs to figure out what they're going to do if you have the people to do it, which
each fire district CERT team is divided into two by district. One goes to the fire station, one goes to the incident commander until relieved by somebody else who basically is in the incident command structure. And the FEMA testing on introduction to the IC is extremely important. It actually whets your appetite, and the CERT training programs through FEMA are not that hard.
yeah, we do keep losing your audio a little bit, Alan, so we missed a little bit of that. But definitely love to talk to you offline.
And I wanted to come in behind Alan, and I something you said, Patrick, realized that I forgot to write something down on my little pad here. One of the things I want to remind CERT members in general, CERT members, you guys have taken the 7 week training, and you don't always realize it. In fact, I don't even think some of our probably our more seasoned members even realize this, but you're also being taught in addition to the skills that you get in those 7 classes. And if you're really good CERT members, you grab all the training you can and soak it up, because here's the little thing that you don't always realize. And we talk about it all the time. Patrick and I, we're miles apart right now. Physically, we're miles apart. And if something happens, I don't have a Patrick with me. Many of you folks in your neighborhoods, you might be the only one who's taken the CERT program. And what's going to happen? And what was Patrick? What was Captain Wynn's favorite time? 2:35 in the morning.
Yeah.
Never did know why. The captain always said when that disaster happens at 2:35 in the morning, you, CERT member, are going to be standing probably shoulder to shoulder with your untrained neighbors. You're going to be called upon at that time to do what Patrick calls just in time training. And you're going to have to manage a group of people who've never done this before. So it's very, very important that you guys, one, take the training, obviously. Many of you did. Take the training, kind of get it to a point of where you really kind of master the various positions. Again, we talked about that earlier. Um, get comfortable with the idea of being an unwilling leader. If you have to be, many times you'll be the only person. You know, everybody's running around with their hair on fire, and you're the only guy or woman who can come in and say, calm down, everybody. Let's come up with something. Let's come up with a plan. But you in your skill set have to be able to do that. You are being taught to be a manager above all things. You may love the search and rescue, you may love the medical and everything like that, but you may find yourself managing a whole group of people who have never done this before. So it is incumbent on you to keep your skills up and keep learning and everything like that. So I wanted to throw that out there because I realized I forgot to mention that in my comments. Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that introduction to leadership there. Um, and really, a lot of times we'll find that people want to help, they don't know how to get started. And it's just like in triage, where the first thing you do after making sure it's safe to enter is you call out, if you can hear the sound of my voice, come to me, because people just need that direction. They're shell shocked. They don't know what to do. They're sitting there dazed. And then somebody tells them to get up and come to them, and you can follow directions. And you're going to find your neighbors standing out there. Um, Power's out, cell phones don't work. What do we do? Well, that's where the green vest, the green helmet, the backpack comes into play. We've been trained by the fire department or whoever teaches it in your community to be the first responders before the professionals show up. We're there to give guidance, trained to keep people safe so that they can help without getting themselves killed or injured, and provide reassurance that there is somebody there. Because for most of us, we're not going to see the professionals right away. We're not going to see the professionals as soon as we want them to be there. But hopefully, we'll see the people in the green vests, helmets, and backpacks and know that they've been trained to be the first responders. All right. Any other questions, comments, editorials?
That's my line, mister.
Hey, you're not running this presentation, co-host. It was it imitation is the sincerest form of flattery?
I'll take that.
Yeah. All right, then thank you everybody. Hopefully you got something out of this training. We'll be off for the month of December, but we'll be back here third Wednesday of January. And hope to see you back then. Hope everybody has good holidays and enjoys some well-deserved rest and time off. And definitely get to know your neighbors. That's step one. Because we're all going to be in it together. We're going to be standing at 2:35 in the morning after that earthquake, right next to our neighbors, and it would be good to know them and that not be the time we meet them for the first time. Have a good night, everyone.
Amen.